Trev's Hockey Show. I'm the Trev. That's still too sweet. Anyway, continuing on with my reviews of one of my favorite things about NHL hockey right now, outdoor games. And today we're going to talk about the second outdoor game in 2011, that being the 2011 Heritage Classic between the Calgary Flames and the Montreal Canadiens. Let's talk about it. So the second Heritage Classic and the sixth outdoor game, and as I said earlier, the second game in 2011, was played on February 20th, 2011, roughly a month and a half removed from the 2011 Winter Classic, which we covered here. Now, on a personal side note, I myself personally remember February 20th, 2011 for far greedier reasons, but that's a video I'm probably never going to make. But moving on. Now for the Canadiens, this is their second outdoor game, having played in the inaugural Heritage Classic back in 2003, which we also covered here. As far as your attendance goes, 41,022 fans filled McMahon Stadium, which is usually home of the Calgary Stampeders of the CFL. Now, as far as where that puts it statistically, at the time, it was the fourth highest attended outdoor game. Now, the weather for the game came in with the wind chill, a normal minus 25 degrees Celsius, or minus 13 Fahrenheit for my American viewers, or 248.15 kelvins if we want to go down the temperature rabbit hole. Now, the selection of Calgary was something the Flames had lobbied hard for some time. And when Calgary was approved, the idea of where to play the game had some interesting ideas, including, but not limited to, building a temporary stadium just west out of Lake Louise. Which, hey, I'm not going to lie, I mean, that's the visual aesthetics alone. Come on. Or, if that isn't a good enough idea, just outside the foothills of the Canadian Rockies. I mean, really, you can't go wrong with either selection. But ultimately, the decision was made to go with McMahon Stadium. And to bring the capacity to over 40,000, as McMahon normally sits 35,650, additional seating was added to the north end zone, pushing it past 40,000. Now, the idea of two outdoor games was met with some criticism, with some of the quote-unquote experts speculating that the NHL risked diluting the unique nature of the outdoor game. I mean, that's really up to the eye of the beholder, right? But if this isn't your year, just wait till 2014. You'll know when you get there. Trust me, you will. But let's talk the jerseys. Now, the Flames went as far back as the Calgary Tigers of the Western Canada Hockey League of the 1920s and went with a very unique color scheme of maroon and burnt yellow. Personally, I think this is one of the nicest Heritage Classic jerseys ever made. But it's a different video for a different day. Now, to tie in some history between these two teams, the inspiration they drew this jersey from, the Calgary Tigers, would lose the 1924 Stanley Cup Finals to the Montreal Canadiens. So, having said that, let's talk about the Canadiens. Now, while the Canadiens did go back in their history, they really just kind of played the if it ain't broke, don't fix it method, and went from jerseys they wore from the 70s to the 90s. The only real change between what they were wearing at the time was the numbers are a lot fuller. I think in 2011 they were wearing them with a trim. But to tie in some more history, this is the same jersey that the Canadiens would play the Calgary Flames in the 1986 and 1989 Stanley Cup Finals. So just to tie that in, let's take a look at the rosters. Flames are coached by Brent Sutter at the time. And for the life of me, I forgot Morrison was even a Flame at a point in his career. But I mean, of course, Iginla's going to be in it. Now here's where it gets a little interesting. David Moss is playing in his third outdoor game, but his first NHL outdoor game, as he played in the 2001 Cold War game and the 2010 IIHF World Championships. Steve Staios is playing in his second Heritage Classic. And Kipper was your goalie. Let's talk about the Canadiens. Being coached by Jacques Martin. Camilleri, also playing in his second outdoor game, but first in the NHL, also played in the 2001 Cold War. James Wisniewski is playing in his second Winter Classic, having played in the 2009 Winter Classic. Giunta was your captain at the time. And Pacioretty and Subban were on the team at the time. Carey Price was your starter. So, let's talk about the game. So after a brief ice patch fix delay, which really was a reoccurring theme throughout this game, it wasn't consistent, but it was there. We were off, and like most, if not all outdoor games, we start with a few feeling the ice moments, quote unquote. Unfortunately though, one would say the Canadiens never really got the feel for the ice surface. After PK Subban took a tripping penalty at the 6:11 mark of the first period, Hellgill followed suit. Not even 33 seconds later, he got called for a tripping penalty of his own, putting the Flames on a 5-on-3 power play. And there's really only one way a good 5-on-3 should end, with a goal. So with 3 seconds left in the first penalty, Rene Bourque would tip in his 18th of the year. An assist from Alex Tanguay and Olli Jokinen at the 8:09 mark to open the scoring. And pretty much back and forth the rest of the way up until the end of the first period. Mostly Calgary though, as they would outshoot the Canadiens 19-8. So going into period number 2 with a 1-0 lead. Not even 1 minute into the second period, we're starting off with an early Calgary power play. Roman Hamrlik would get called for high sticking 45 seconds in. And thankfully for Montreal, nothing materialized out of this power play. It's about this point in the game where Montreal found an inkling of something because they were coming at Kiprusoff often, keeping the man busy. Jay Bouwmeester would take an interference call at 10:59, but really that didn't seem to faze the Flames all that much. 15 seconds left in the Canadiens' power play, and Tom Babchuk would score his 9th on the season, shorthanded, from Curtis Glencross and Brennan Morrison to give the Flames that 2-0 lead. And not even 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 2 seconds to be exact. After that, Rene Bourque would score his 2nd of the game, his 19th on the season, after being sent in on a beauty breakaway from Corey Sarich to give the Flames a 3-0 lead. From this point, the Canadiens are still trying, and that's the key word there, trying, to get their first of the game. But Kiprusoff had the door shut. Second period would end with the Montreal Canadiens outshooting Calgary 21-11. So it's definitely not a lack of effort on the Canadiens' part. They just can't get past Kiprusoff. Now, the third period would, for all intents and purposes, be the slowest period. But that didn't mean there weren't opportunities. There would be action in the Montreal end, with Carey Price still keeping Montreal in the game, trying to get them back to hopefully something on the score sheet. And there was Kiprusoff doing Kiprusoff things, which he's really good at doing. After Roman Hamrlik would take his 2nd penalty of the game, getting called for hooking at 8:58, Calgary made the power play work again. Alex Tanguay would score his 16th on the power play on a sweet pass from Jerome McGinley and Brendan Morrison at the 10:30 mark to give Calgary a 4-0 lead and essentially put this game out of reach for the Canadiens. As mentioned, Mika Kiprusoff does Mika Kiprusoff things and would do this en route to his 4th shutout of the season and his 38th of his career, as well as, here's your first, the first shutout in NHL Outdoor game history. This will also be the 2nd time in outdoor game history that the home team would win, the first being in 2010, which we covered here. Your shot total to end the third was 10-7 Montreal. So I wasn't kidding when I said it was the slowest period. Montreal also won the overall shot game, 39-37. So again, it's not for a lack of effort. They just could not solve Kiprusoff at all. Now, as far as where this puts everybody that has played an outdoor game to this point, stats-wise, Calgary sits there, playing in 1, and Montreal sits there, playing in 2. Tiebreaker, obviously, is goals for. That's why it's ranked the way it's ranked. So here's my thoughts on this game. I thought this was one of the better games as far as outdoor games is concerned. Mostly because of not just the authenticity, snow and cold and all that fun stuff. Just in terms of how it was a special team's dream. Of all the goals scored, only 1 was scored at even strength. 1 was shorthanded, 2 were power plays. So special teams were doing their job. Kiprusoff, I mean, come on. Watching that guy just shut the Canadiens right down, facing almost 40 shots and keeping them all out. Except one of the better Heritage Classics, one of the better outdoor games. I really enjoyed it. And that's my review of the 2011 Heritage Classic. It's another one of them Trev's hockey shows. I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't think I don't appreciate the gesture, especially if you've made it to this point. And if you have, if you've watched the whole thing through, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're here. And it goes a long way, it really does. If you want to, that red button that says subscribe all over it, if you're considering it, go ahead and hit it. We're on a mad dash to 500, and for everybody that's coming along with me to this point, I do appreciate you. So that was one of the things I'm working on. It's a whole bunch more in the tank. Like I said, I'm catching up old projects, so you're going to see a lot of things coming. But either way, in the meantime, and in between time, be looking forward to some Trev. Later.